Just a Job is the podcast for the modern woman to redefine what success looks like. We highlight real women and their real stories.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Just a Job. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome to Illyria.
I know.
Welcome. The best movie ever. That's immediately what I thought of.
Immediately. Happy May, everybody. I hope you have had a great start. We're actually recording this in April, so this feels wrong. But happy May to future Sarah and Ellen and all of our listeners. We are recording this early because, well, we're just on top of it, and that's how we do. So, Ellen, kick it off. What is on the agenda for this week and next week?
On the agenda, I am work-wise, I am building out Smartsheet. So like me, Smartsheet, BFFs, and that's literally all I'm doing this week. So yay, exciting. Fitting in some more workout classes, which is good. Always enjoy those. I've got a chill weekend coming up. Nothing super exciting. I'm so sorry, but it's going to be like 75, 80 degrees this weekend. So my ass is going to the beach. I'm so excited. And then
You don't have to apologize.
I just feel bad because I'm like,
No, it's 80
I know
here.
the cold.
It's
Fabulous.
it's gotten warmer. It's gotten warmer.
Good.
I know this
Okay.
past weekend was a bit of an anomaly, but
Okay,
you
then
go
I feel
sit on
better.
the beach. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to the beach. I am not going to get any sun because I am a little fair girl. So I will be under the umbrella with sunscreen on, reading my book, but happily still at the beach.
Mhm.
And next week, oh God, the week after is my birthday, which is a little scary. We were just saying my birthday's on a Wednesday and I have to go into the office on Wednesday. So, hey, 30, you might as well stay in the office all day. Woo! Which is terrible. So that is going to be fun. I think we're going to go to dinner and get some drinks. Nothing too crazy, but still celebratory. So that's about as exciting as it gets. What about you, Sarah?
Well, 30 is a big way to celebrate. You're
Yeah.
like metaphorically over. Well, just kidding.
If you were going to say over the hill, I'm going to come through this screen and punch you. That is so mean. Over the hill? Over the hill. Whoa. Dagger to the heart.
That was an example. That was an example of think before you let your mouth work.
I forgive you. It's okay.
That's
funny.
But the beauty is then you don't have to go into the office on Thursday, so you can drink to your heart's content on Wednesday and rest, sleep in on Thursday. But I am very excited. I know this is a week in advance, but everybody mark your calendars. Ellen's birthday.
Excited. I am excited. I'm like, bring it on.
What's another year?
What's another year?
Yep.
I'll be older, wiser, more beautiful. That's what I'm going with.
Fine wine, baby. Like a California fine wine. This week, getting back into the swing of things. I haven't been home the past few weekends, which all for good reasons, but you know how it is when you're not at home and then it's like Monday feels like, oh shit, I gotta do laundry, I gotta clean the house. So getting ready for that. And then it's our anniversary trip. So we're heading out. So get to pack and travel and go see some sites. So I'm excited for that. And that's like this week and next week, pretty much just prepping. So I'm excited. We have Chrissy's episode. So we originally found Chrissy, and we'll give you the explanation at the beginning of the episode, but we originally found Chrissy on TikTok. She's just very outspoken when it comes to her experience in corporate and then also just conversations around others' experience working in corporate. So we are excited to have her on the show. She was so willing to just share everything. And we'll make sure to include where to find her on socials because the conversation doesn't stop here. That's for sure. So any parting thoughts, Ellen?
Definitely go check out Chrissy's TikTok. It has become a place where I like to go scroll and just listen to all of the crazy stories that people either write into her or her own opinion and experience with what she's gone through. And it's so interesting. So that's my parting thought.
Beautiful. All right. Well, everybody enjoy your week. We'll see ya.
Bye.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We have Chrissy Barron with us today. Chrissy is a seasoned marketing executive with over 13 years of experience and a master's degree in psychology. Her career is marked by a unique blend of strategic insight and consumer-focused expertise, driving revenue and market share growth through innovative brand and marketing strategies. With a proven track record of leading impactful marketing campaigns for companies ranging from startups to established enterprises, Chrissy excels in leveraging her diverse skill set to achieve measurable results. Chrissy, thank you so much for joining us today.
I am sorry I gave you such a heavy introduction for myself, I swear, I know, I felt that was like a Joey moment in Friends when he used the thesaurus too many times. Do you know what I mean? That was giving that energy. I'm like, I should have written that less aggressive. But anyways, yeah, so I drive insightful impacts. I'm really glad you brought that.
Please tell me you have that on your LinkedIn and your resume as well. Like,
Yeah,
you gotta hit all the boxes.
It's so funny using words that don't mean things because it's such a business fluff to do that, right?
Totally.
And when you've been in the business world for so long, you can kind of sniff that out. And so I'm laughing at myself being ironic that I talk shit about people that do that. And then I'm like, anyways, I drive insightful.
And here you are.
I drive insightful resources. And I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? Anyways, thank you for having me.
We're so happy to have you.
Yes.
Also, Chrissy has her own podcast as well and a fabulous TikTok. If you've got some time, go check both of those things out. Yes.
Thank you.
How come that wasn't in your intro? Because those are incredible things as well.
You know what's funny is I get comments and people are like, how do you ever expect to get a job with this TikTok? And I'm like, no, if they don't accept me at my TikTok worthy, then they're a red flag in itself because I'm calling out companies that are all just walking red flags. And if you are triggered by what I'm talking about, that's, baby, you got something going on there that I didn't do. Yeah. Yeah, so
it's a reflection of you. Well, that's, I guess, to give context to how we're even meeting today. When we started the podcast, like obviously we're on social media, so we're scrolling. We're like trying to find videos and trying to find relatable content. Chrissy pops up, and just is talking smack on corporate, and I was like, damn. I like this girl. And I think we followed you. And then it was like, obviously, once you start to follow people, then their videos start popping up more. And I'm like, damn, like with each video, you were commenting. And I think that you're so candid and you say the shit that everybody is thinking. And whether I was thinking it, I could verbalize it as eloquently as you is highly unlikely, but it's insane the things that you're able to capture with your TikTok and your podcast. So I'm excited to get into it more because I feel like Ellen and I, obviously, we just indulge in these kind of conversations, the two of us. Right. But now we get to have a little three-way conversation about it. So Chrissy's taking it all the way back. When you were growing up, what did you want to be?
I love this question. So I joke that I was born to be a businesswoman because I was raised by my dad. My dad is a very successful CFO. And so growing up, I played businesswoman. I would carry his briefcase around. I would put my Barbies up in a row and I would boss them around. That's it. They didn't actually have input. This was a dictatorship. Okay. This was not a cheerleadership. I just told them what to do and then they didn't listen very good. And so my dream job was to be a lawyer. And
oh my God.
Yes,
how funny.
Yeah. And my dad would say, it was also sometimes a backhanded compliment, because he'd be like, oh, you argue, you should at least get paid for it. And I would be like, thank you. Because I would always come ready because that man prepared me as if every situation was going to be like Shark Tank. You know what I mean? So like I would walk up to him and I'd be like, today I'm asking for $20 to go to the mall. And he would say, okay. And what are you going to do? And I would have to have, actionable insights as to what I was going to do. And then he would tell me to go open up an Excel spreadsheet and put the mileage and then take the price of gas. And then he would give me exact change to get to the mall. And the thing is, like, I wasn't buying anything extra because he gave me down to the cents, right? And then he would know if the mileage was off or where I was going or what I was doing. And so, that was, I was basically, I was ready for a TED Talk at a very young age.
That's so funny. Okay, I have a somewhat similar experience. If I was like, hey, I want to go to the movies or hey, I want to go do this, my dad's like, okay, what are you going to do? And I would literally make PowerPoints of like ideas of things for me to do. And typically it would be, I would iron a couple of my dad's like work shirts And then I would get money and go to the movies with my friends. That's so funny.
I love that energy so much. I used to read books for my dad and get him to pay me to then tell him what they were about.
Shut
my
up.
the
That's
businesswoman.
So like he would
Yes.
get these books and I'm like, let's reason with you. You're never gonna read this. I'm gonna read it. I have time. So I'll read this book for you for $20. And then I would start pitching him the size of the book. Like if it was 500 words of it. I'm like, look, this is more of a $40 book here. So I'm gonna cut you a deal. And then I would give him the synopsis of the book.
That's just cut you a deal. That's hysterical. Oh my God. Okay, so lawyer, like how did it evolve from there? What was like either the next desire, or did you carry that like going into school? Where did it go next?
So I actually took my LSAT. I got into college early. I got into college at 17 because I went to school early because I'm an August baby. So it was like right on the cusp of like getting in early or like being late. And so I was the youngest one, and all of my, like, I wasn't legally allowed to drink until after I graduated, which doesn't.
Oh, it's crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because also graduations happen in August. And so I turned 21 as I was graduating college.
Whoa.
And so as I was finishing senior year, I was also studying for my LSAT and taking an LSAT class or study course. And then I took my LSAT, and then I got a good enough score to get into law school, and then started applying. I actually got in, and then I panicked about the debt. And I was like, I am 21 and I know that if we were to break down the layers of being a lawyer, I wanted power. That's the bottom line. There's of course I wanted to help people and I wanted to do all these things, but I wanted power. I have always wanted to change the world. I don't know why. Maybe it comes from being a control freak, but I knew that I needed power in order to do that, which is why I wanted to become a lawyer. And the financial burden panicked me. And also I went and interviewed a bunch of lawyers, and they all hated their life. They all looked me in the eyes and said, don't do this.
That's a little bit of a shock to the system.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so I said, okay. And I went a different route.
Well, I think that's good that you did that. We've had multiple people that I would say like 3 or 4 now that were pursuing law, and somewhat of a similar experience. At some point they were just like, this ain't it. But I understand why I was drawn to law, because it's like growing up, you're a teacher, you're a nurse, you're a lawyer, and so it's like this kind of idea of what this person looks like is what you're searching after, but the actual work that has to be done on a day-to-day basis, like there's no way. So it sounds like you came to that conclusion. You were like, yep, no, being a lawyer is not it for me. How did you pivot at that point, like post-graduate school or
Yeah, so I did my undergrad in marketing and business law. And I also I didn't quite get a minor in psychology because they kicked me out for having too many credits. They were like, you need to wrap this party up. And I said, no. The thing is, once I pay for 16, the rest are free. So I was out here. I took a wakeboarding class. I was like, I was getting my money's worth. Okay. Because I went to undergrad in LA. And then I needed a job, obviously. And I had worked through undergrad. I worked as an accounts payable person. So it was essentially, I was working in accounting. And so my first job was in sales and marketing, because back in the day, that was like this mixed job, right? And I started full-time working at the age of 21. And that was the first time that I experienced, I'd worked there for a year, and I said, oh, I want to move up. I called my dad and I'm like, well, what do I do? And he said, well, you have to work there for 5 years before you can become a manager. And I said, that's going to be a no for me. And so I lateraled.
Yeah.
I said, no, I'm just going to lateral to a higher position. And I left the company.
Isn't that funny how it's like that advice comes in of, oh, you got to do the 5 years. And even now it's like, I think it was 5 years, and then it changed to like, oh, you got to stay for at least 2. And now it's like everyone's hopping like a year, 18 months if they're not able to get that. If it's of like mind trying to move up the ladder and you're not able to do so in that time frame, goodbye. I'm going to go elsewhere because I'm going to get the bump in pay, the bump in title elsewhere.
Yeah. And also these jobs aren't matching inflation. Last year, if you did not get a 7% raise, you are not matching inflation. And so it's also incredibly hard for me to tell you my value when you've already hired me at this value, at this price ceiling, versus me going to another person and setting that price ceiling higher, and then being like, oh yeah, I see that value, right? And so in my opinion, not in this job market, but typically it is easier to just go and get a higher paying job versus trying to get a raise from your boss.
Going to that very first job, you were like, I want to move up, and I am not willing to wait 5 years to do so. You made a lateral move. What was that transition like?
Okay. You should know that my life is a little bit of a comedic, just there's a lot of bits that go on here. Okay. And so I am, keep in mind, this is 2012, okay, or 2013 at this time. So I'm on my work computer applying for other jobs because duh. And because like I was 22, first of all, my frontal lobe wasn't developed, okay? No one was telling me not to do this. I said, whatever. IT was not a real thing to me at that point. Those guys knew what I was doing. No one said anything, whatever. So I'm just chit-chatting away. And I see this job, and it's this, again, marketing and sales job. It's outside sales. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so it just happens to be in Belgium. You know what I mean? Like, and I said, whatever, I'm going to click apply because I'm a wild girl. And I guess there was like thousands of applicants, and I got chosen. And I literally looked at everyone I knew. I had a boyfriend at the time. I said, hey, it's been great here in America. I'm actually going to go. I said, don't forget about me because we're dating. He did, but that's irrelevant. I got on a plane, and I had 2 bags with everything I owned. And I said, goodbye, I'm going to Belgium. And I said bye to everyone I knew. And I landed in Belgium, and it was going to be this great opportunity, right? Because the thing about me is I'm 100% or nothing. I didn't Google what Belgium looks like. I just knew. I knew it in the heart of heart what it looked like. So I said, I'm going to land there, and it's going to be Emily in Paris, but that wasn't a thing back then.
Exactly
but just picture Emily in Paris. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this spin. I'm going to go 360. I'm going to look at all the architecture. I'm going to get a little beret, and it's going to be amazing. So then I land, and I had to get on a plane, or I had to get on a train because my driver wasn't there to pick me up. And I called them, and obviously English isn't their first language. And I almost break the machine, the card reading machine. And the guy's getting all mad at me. And I'm like, I don't know what you're saying, whatever. Everyone thinks I speak Dutch. That's okay. I really am appreciative of that, but I definitely do not speak Dutch. And so I get on the train, and it's taking me all the way to Antwerp. And Antwerp is about an hour and 20 away from Brussels. Okay. So away from the city. And again, I'm just in my like naive little 22-year-old brain, just like enjoying my life. And I go and ask this nice lady, I said, I show her my ticket, and I say, hey, am I going to the right place? And she says, the train splits in half. I said, what? What do you mean the train splits in half? What's going on here? She said, the train splits in half. You need to be at the front of the train. You need to be there immediately. And I said, okay. So I just, this lady just, I don't know where I would have ended up. So I'm running through the train with both of my bags. Okay. And people are like cussing at me. They're like, fucking American. Cause I'm like hitting people. Yeah. I have to get to the front of that train. Okay. So apparently the car just unlatches, and they go like this. Okay. That's what she meant by the train splits in half. Mm-hmm. So finally I arrive, and, the door opens, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to have my moment, my Emily in Paris moment. I step out, and there's a goat. And I said, whose goat is this? And then I look around, and I said, I'm at a farm. I'm at a fucking farm. What just happened here? God. And then this black car, blacked out window rolls up, opens the van door, and goes, Chrissy. And I said, well, I have an ego, so I'm just going to die. I'm not going to say no. I'm going to get in this van's van. I'm going to die. I'm going to choose death. I'm just going to step into this van with blacked out windows. I have gone so far. And I get in the van, and he drives me, and he doesn't say anything, and I don't say anything. And then we land, and he just says, this is your house. And I said, okay. And it was MTV Cribs. Okay. It was just 2 houses full of random humans from across the entire world that were all bidding for these jobs.
What?
All paid, 100% paid. They paid for my travel. They paid for everything.
That is so bizarre. I have never heard of such a thing before.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it was for sure. It was a scam, you guys. It was a scam. It was incredibly sketchy. So I ended up living there for around 3 months. People were
3 months too long.
People were getting fired every single week. At the end of the week, it would be like, okay, who's staying and who's going? And it was a magazine company. So physical marketing. and then also fit like print marketing, and then also like sales, because you'd have to go figure out who was going to buy that spot, explain to them, it was all about tourism sectors. And then I overheard them talking about what we were going to do after we got this job, and they're like, okay, so the next step of this job is that we send you to second world countries. I said, I don't know her. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. What do you mean you're going to send me to second?
Yeah.
And they said, and especially you, the way that you look, we're going to send you to the Middle East. And I said, what? And then I panicked and I got scared. And I said, I was like, okay, I'm actually not ready for this. And so on my final day, it was like 3 months in, and it was a final interview. Okay. There's 6 of us left out of, I think, 25 or 30 people. I'm talking just overnight, they would be gone. They would be gone, you guys. They would just hand you a plane ticket. So sketchy. The magazine is called the European Times. I'm sure we should do some digging on it. They're not alive now. They walk me into this room, and it's me and like my 2 bosses, and they're smiling at me. So I'm like, okay, like this is good, right? Because I still can't handle rejection at that age. So it's like, I didn't want to be there anymore, but I couldn't handle it. And they said, you're too sparkly for Europe. And I said, okay.
That's
okay. And I said,
kind of a nice backhanded compliment.
Yeah,
I guess.
And we both kind of just stared at each other because I didn't understand I was getting fired. You know what I mean? I just said, sparkly's good, Yay.
Smiling and nodding.
And then they just like slide this plane ticket over to me. And I said, what? And I just see it's going back to LA. And I said, okay, well, now I need to go apologize to everyone that I just said I was leaving for the rest of my life, like traveling around Europe by myself. And then I was like, JK, I need money. And so I flew back home, and on the flight home, I got an interview with another company.
Oh my gosh.
Insane.
Feels like a bit like a movie that you just created.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it was, I'm sure,
like maybe could have been a horror movie. So I stayed in touch with some of the girls that went in, lived in all these places, and they told me it was beyond sketchy, and they like are living out of hotels, and they're going into the like oil company CEOs, and this is also back in 2012, 2013, and yeah, I mean, they're all still alive, so that's good.
That's the first workplace trauma that you experienced.
Yeah. I didn't even view it as that, because I think it was so shaded by the idea of moving to a new place, and it was like so exciting and so fun. Maybe that's how people feel moving to like New York or LA. I just moved to Belgium
it
to learn that.
Yeah, that's a big move. Okay, so then you fly home. What's the next move? Where did you land?
Yes. So then I started working at, obviously I lateraled to another, newspaper, because it's pretty easy, right? And so the first job was medical supplies, but they actually created the barcode system for hospitals. And so that was the first job, really, really huge company, huge corporation. Then I go to the magazine, and then I go to the newspaper, and the newspaper is kind of a local newspaper, pretty large city, but local newspaper. And I'm doing marketing and sales again. So I'm, doing SEO, SEM, PPC, and also talking to the business owners. So it was kind of like a mixed quota. And I am doing that job. And also, just side note here, again, I am 23 years old at this time, and I don't know anything, but that's a good and bad thing, because I went in and I just said, hey, and I just negotiated a signing bonus. Like, I didn't even know to do that. I just did it. I was just like, hey, this isn't enough money. I'm not going to make sales for the first 3 months until I get my quota underneath me. So what I'm going to do is actually, I will only sign if you give me a $2,000 a month signing bonus for the first 3 months. And I got it. And that's like, not the first time I learned to ask for what you want, probably like the 20th time, because, I grew up in Shark Tank. So, but I got it. And then I explained it to my coworker, which was a learning experience, because her feelings were hurt. But, I just chose to empower her. And I said, hell yeah, let's walk in there and tell him you need more money. And I'm like in her ear, like, hell yeah, you can. And that was a great experience for multiple reasons. It also was great to work for a magazine or a newspaper. It was also the precipice of online versus print. And the company was not ready to make those changes. Like, they were so stuck in their print ways. And we on the digital team were saying, like, hey, we're going to move towards online. There's no option here. And the company and the leadership was having difficult times. That was also the first time that I experienced a level of sexism in the workforce. So
Mm.
I was called into the office and told that I can't wear leggings to work. And it was leggings like under a dress, which was interesting, right? The dress was
Mm.
tighter, but I was wearing leggings. And then they called this other girl in the office and said, like, her chest can't be showing, but based on what the men were wearing, meaning more unprofessional, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
not nice pants and stuff like that, it was okay. And so it was the first time I experienced like a dress code violation, which I thought was really interesting because I looked around and I said, well, this isn't apples to apples. And
Mm.
so I
Yeah.
just observed. I followed the rules and I observed and I said, okay, touche.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see about this.
That's so
Jeez.
interesting. And I'm assuming any of the men in the office did not get the same sort of repercussions for whatever they chose to wear to the office.
No. And, oh no. Yeah. No, they were allowed to wear whatever they wanted. You know, jeans. Like we weren't allowed to wear jeans. They were allowed to wear jeans. And yeah, it was
Hmm.
just, again, it was just something that I observed because at that age, I didn't realize that I had power in my opinion. Even if I
Mm.
was giving my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, I didn't believe that people were listening to me. You know, I still
Mm.
had this mentality that I was just a kid. And
Sure.
so it wasn't like anyone, you know, it's so interesting because I had this like
So cute.
naivety about me where I didn't even understand the rules in the sense of organic workplace. Like I went directly to the CEO, I knocked on her door and I said, hey, can I talk to you? And like, I don't know why. I felt like since I was a human, I had an opinion and I was able to share
Mm-hmm.
it. And I
Yeah.
realized maybe we've just like really beaten people down to believe that their opinion is not worthy. But I went to the CEO and I said, hey, this is my opinion about digital versus online. And this is where I think it's going to go. And this is why I think we should start moving towards digital. And she was like, hey, thank you so much. Maybe next time make an appointment. And I said,
Good
you're
to
bringing up a
know.
good point here. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're figuring out life because, those like early jobs, young in your career, you don't really like
Yeah.
understand the whole workplace setting. And you like grow conditioned of it and you like have to
Mm-hmm.
learn because in most cases, you're like, you have to raise your hand to go to the bathroom. I couldn't chew gum in high school. Like, so
Yeah.
you have all of these like really strange rules. And then, like, for me coming out of it, I remember thinking like I had to treat my bosses the same way. And even to this day, I'm like, why do I feel so weird sometimes? Like, I'm a grown adult, they're a grown adult. Like, yeah, there are some rules that need to be followed, but also like they're a person. So I don't
Yeah.
blame you. If anything, I applaud you for like going and speaking to the CEO and for her to like make
Totally.
an appointment. You're like, okay, now I know. You set the
Right.
boundary in place. I
Mhm.
get it. Moving
It
on.
was,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I joke a lot that my dad had a large impact in my life because he was my main caretaker and I think he raised me like a man.
Mm-hmm.
And not intentionally. He just, you know, if I ever said I can't do that, he would almost get mad. Like, why can't you do that? And so I have always approached the world as if I deserved to be there, not as if I
Yeah.
had to earn a spot. And that got me into a
Mm-hmm.
lot of trouble.
I was gonna say that probably rubbed some people the wrong way because that's not how
Mm-hmm.
every, like young
No.
female tends to operate. Um, I want to talk about you talk about this a lot on your TikTok, and I definitely want to like get into it. You are extremely candid in your experiences that you've had. And there was one where you were talking about working in an office setting. And at this point, you were focusing on marketing. And I think like somebody that was either the CFO came in and you had an interaction. Can you talk us through that?
Yes, of course I can. So I landed my dream job. I was the vice president of marketing for a $200 million company. Keep in mind, this is an in office job, okay? Which I think
Mm-hmm.
has to do with a lot of the toxicity of it. So I'm in my office. I get there before everyone else. I leave after everyone else. You know, that's just what I'm supposed to do. And being a female in an executive world. And I say he slams my door open. People don't like that I say that. Whatever. He threw my door open. He didn't knock, whatever you want to say. The door hit the wall. And I'm like, I look up, right? I'm
Yeah.
like at my desk, head down. And he was like, why are our numbers shit? And he threw his backpack. And my immediate response was, wow, I love the way you're talking to me right now. My bad for accidentally being condescending as a reaction to your aggression. And he said, get to the fucking point. And he was at this point, he was standing over me, yelling me. And I said, hey, I have a strategy. Been here less than 90 days. I'm in the middle of it. Here's where we're at. At this point, I had already increased return on ad spend, decreased spend, and I was launching a whole new website. So like, sit the fuck down.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just mad at me. Well, there's other things that go into it. And then he said, I expect you to know the numbers in your sleep, the numbers of the entire company, the entire $200 million company. And I said, okay. And he said, he walked over to my whiteboard and he erased it, all my hard work. And he wrote numbers and he wrote a little smiley face, a very ugly smiley face, by the way. The smiley face had hair. And then he put his initials. And that was the
that
first
makes me think of like a dog marking its territory. Like,
Oh,
oh, I hate that so much.
I think that was the first day I was aware that this wasn't a healthy environment, because everything else that had happened from week one, stuff was happening. I blocked it out of my mind because I said, you just told everyone you got this vice president of marketing job at 30 years old. You shout it from the rooftops. You told everyone, and everyone keeps saying how proud they are of you. Oh my gosh, how they knew you'd always be successful, and blah, 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 blah. And then what? I'm going to go tell them that I cry every night? Like, in that moment, the choice was, do I stand up for fear of losing my job that I have told everyone about, or do I shut this down and just push it further down? And that's what I did. I just stuffed it down and I said, okay, I just need to mess up less, and then that thought process is actually not fair, because what that does is it breeds a thought process of mind reading, and it puts you in such a walking on eggshells moment.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't know how you kept your composure, because it's probably one of those moments, like when your sibling picks on you, or like somebody says something to you and then like 3 days later you're like, I should have said that. Like, I'm sure you had that 10 times. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's almost as if like doing your job isn't already difficult enough, and then now you have to like navigate this whole workplace people crap. And it's just like, come on, guys, why are we making this more difficult on each other? And don't you just want to be like, listen here, buddy, let's level up. Like, I'm here to make your job easier, and you're here to make my job easier. So like, stop being mean. It's like, right? Just piss off, man. That's what I would say. Yeah. That's what I,
How about when I went in for my quarterly review, which I asked for and then requested, and then sent him like a document of everything that I had done in actionable steps that had associated with a KPI or revenue, right? I wasn't like, been working hard. I said, increase this, did this, right? What I'm still working on. The only feedback I got was that I was too excited, like a puppy, and I needed to wag my tail less and speak quieter and slower in team meetings, because people can't understand me. And I thought in my head, you motherfucker, you would never say that to a man.
Ever.
You would never say that. You would never compare a man to a puppy, maybe a dog or a bear, but not an infant dog.
Oh my!
I'm starting to get hot. My blood pressure is increasing. I'm getting so mad. Oh my god!
And when people are like, "Oh, that doesn't happen. People don't talk to people like that." Yeah. You're like, go look at my TikTok. Go look at all the comments. Go look at how many people are like willing to share. Yeah. I think the thing about all of this is that it happens all the time, but people don't want to talk about it, because similar to what you were saying, where it's like, I don't want to be the narc, or I don't want to be the person that calls people out on their bad behavior, but also it's like not my responsibility to manage what comes out of your mouth. Like, take some ownership. Like, there's been situations that Ellen and I have talked about in the past where it's like we have these encounters and we're just kind of left with like, I would never say that ever. I wouldn't say that to my worst enemy. So like, who gave you the right to say that to me? I've done nothing to you. I mean, I can't even imagine the day and how it felt when you left.
Yeah. I talk about this a lot on TikTok, and I say, it is not your responsibility to manage other people's emotions in the workplace. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is not part of my job description. You did not hire me to be the therapist. So I do not need to manage your emotions. If you are feeling big feelings in your body, you can go ahead and remove yourself from the situation. I ended up talking to angry men like I talked to toddlers, because they wouldn't listen. right?
That's hysterical. But I'm sure it was quite effective.
Yeah. Like when I said, it seems like you're feeling big feelings right now.
Okay, the best part of all of that is like, I would say if somebody said that to me, I know that that's backhanded. I know that that's passive aggressive, but they probably just didn't recognize it. So like,
Oh, yeah.
you have like this complete ownership of the situation.
Yeah. Like he's like, of course I'm feeling big fucking feelings right now. The numbers. I said, oh, you seem really upset. Did you need a
Oh my
minute?
God. How did
Oh my-
you
yeah.
so you're in this space of like, oh my God, you've got the title. You've got the title. I'm sure it was incredible pay. You've made it. This is what you've been working towards, right? You in the beginning you talked about wanting to work your way up in a company and you've made it there and you arrived in this space. It's hell. It's toxic. You've got all of these terrible stories like you're saying. How do you manage that this is what you've been working to and towards and you finally made it, but it's not all that it cracked up to be? What was that experience like?
Oh my gosh. A rebirth, a shedding. I explain it as I ask people in my podcast, what was your breaking point in corporate America? Because that's what corporate America does. It moves you to a breaking point. And I can tell you guys my breaking point. We had flown all of our agency partners out. We were in a team meeting, like everyone, right? I was the only female in the room. And we had been in this meeting for 6 hours at this point. And it was because we were launching with a major celebrity chef. And so we were integrating his brand and our brand. And my boss asked me to go get something out of the printer because apparently I'm the only one with 2 legs. And so I used my 2 legs that I have to walk and go get that paper out of the printer. And when I came back, no one was in the room. And so kind of like I said, oh, where's everyone? Because the thing about me is I assume positive intent. So everyone must have gone to the bathroom at the same time. And so I walk out front and they were all getting each other's cars. And I said, oh, where are you going? And he said, we're going to lunch. We'll be back soon. They didn't invite me.
Mm.
And that was a moment where I really sat in my office and I cried and I ate my rice and chicken. And
I know the feeling.
I didn't cry for not being invited because I didn't like any of those men. I cried because I realized that no matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked, I was not on an even playing field. It was not apples to apples, and it was never going to be apples to apples. And I realized that I had been playing the game as if I was a man because in my head, that's how I viewed myself, that I deserved to be there, that I worked hard enough to be there, that people deserved to hear my opinion. When we would have team meetings, because we had team meetings once a week, I would stand up to talk about my area, marketing. And the first time I did it, the C-suite stood up too. And I looked around and I said, because I was naive. I said, oh, what? Why are you guys? I thought I was talking. And they were like, why are you standing up? And I said, just wanted to make sure I could address the room. And I realized that like psychologically, they did not like that I was standing up when they were sitting down. And it wasn't even intentional. That's the crazy thing is like, I was just being myself. And so there was this moment and I really relate it to Scandal because as a female who was really driven in corporate, I always looked up to her. I thought she was, this badass woman. And there was this episode where her dad told her you needed to be twice as good as them to even get their attention. She was talking about men. And I realized, I think that was not the first time in my life, but that was a time in my life when I realized that the game was rigged. And it was the first time that I thought, maybe I don't want to play this game anymore. And it was so sad because I have so much light and drive and love. And I am the person that wants to make people feel so amazing about themselves. Like I will be your number one fan. I will gas you up all day long. And to be put in an environment where everyone just wanted to tear me down was exhausting to say the least, but also realizing that this is probably a majority of corporate America. And knowing that I was not willing to do that again, I had to light my dream on fire. And my dream was to be the CMO of a Fortune 500. And that was the path that I was on. That was the path that I had built for myself since I was in college. And I essentially had to walk away from that because I knew if I left this job before that perfect time to leave a job, which was 18 months, I left at 11 months, people were going to have questions and I wasn't going to get interviews because why would I leave that job at 11 months? And that's exactly what happened. I wouldn't get interviews. I got asked that question in every interview I had. They were like, why would you leave? You just signed on with this big celebrity chef. Why are you leaving? This company's doing so good. And the thing is that every man that interviewed me, because they were all men, didn't want to hear the real story. I said I was in a culture fit and they were like, what does that mean? And I said, it was a boys club and I didn't fit in. And they said, oh, okay. And then I never heard from them again.
It's so discouraging because, like you said earlier, of the podcast you were listening to, where as a woman, you have to work twice as hard to show up and be viewed as an equal in a room where you're the only female or where you're the youngest potentially as well. And I think it's so sad that you have this drive and this passion and excitement to do good and put in good effort into your work. When you get there and you just like, you see it for what it really is, it's just so disappointing. And to have, it's almost like you said, like you set your dream on fire almost in front of you of like, okay, this is what I worked towards. This is what I wanted. Now what do I do? So once you had got to that point, you'd left, you're going through and you're working through your interviews. I always think it's really interesting when people leave a really toxic workplace, what they do next, because there's so much trauma that comes from it. And like, how do you like unlearn all of those things? How do you find a path forward knowing what you've experienced before? Like, what was that interviewing process like for you next? And how did you even tackle all of the shit that you had experienced previously?
Yeah. The answer is that I didn't process it. I mean, I did. I just ran. I moved so fast. I ran from it. And the thing is that I named my podcast Glass Ceilings Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't because I want to shatter these glass ceilings in corporate America. Corporate America can go fuck itself. I want to shatter these glass ceilings for women to never have to feel this way again in a corporate setting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it, in my belief system, is making this topic less taboo, talking about it, having these conversations about our experiences in corporate America.
Mm-hmm.
And so I left that job and then started freelancing or contract working. And the thing is that I didn't realize is I felt like I was stupid. I was dumb. I was illiterate. I could not make a choice. I had so much decision fatigue that I ended up literally quitting this other job, this contract job that I had, because I felt like I was stupid. I felt like I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not good enough for this. And then I went and heavily took that money that I made and reinvested in my education. And I took courses and it was all about growth marketing and this and that. And it's so funny because it wasn't because I didn't know it, because you guys, I took these courses and I knew everything.
Mm-hmm.
It was because I needed the validation that I knew. I paid $3 to do a course through Google for a director of marketing position or course, but I knew everything. Just check that little box. And, you know, it helped me get my confidence back. But what I realized was what really helped me get my confidence back was doing therapy. I spent 2 years doing trauma-based therapy after leaving that job. It's called EMDR, eye movement desensitization rationale. I'm going to mess up the R on that one.
I was like, I don't remember what it stands for. I know what it is, but I don't remember what it stands for. That is insane.
And you want to go back and you want to tell those people, almost, I don't know. I get it because it's important. You have to process it, but you just want to go back and be like, look what you fucking did to me. Look what you did to me. And to think that like you're out the door, somebody else came in, and if it was a woman, their experience is going to be exactly like yours. Like people like this don't change. And that's the really unfortunate reality of all of it. And it's almost as if you could just like review. I'm currently also like looking for jobs, and I'm in this like position of, do I do contract work? Do I go full time? And there's some part of me that's like, I don't have, I'm going to process this as we're talking about it. I don't have commitment issues. I don't. I love my husband. I love my family. I have friends. I have commitments to myself. I have commitment issues when it comes to work, because here's the thing. They don't commit to me. I have to be the one that like holds 100% of the weight of this relationship. That's not how relationships outside of work go.
No, but you shouldn't.
And I know. Yeah. And it's like a very interesting thing to process too. I'm a very emotional person. I get very emotionally invested in a lot of things. And it's like, I think that the workplace just like exacerbates that. It's always so much more. And I always show up like of who I am. And I'm like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm tired. It's been 7 years of this and I'm tired. And I think the interesting thing about starting this podcast is like, I always thought, Ellen and I always thought we were like one of the few people that felt this way because everybody
Mhm.
glamorizes, romanticizes life and the most amazing corporate career. It's like, oh my God, go on LinkedIn and everybody looks like they absolutely are crushing it and love it. And just everything's glorious. And then you have these conversations and you're like, nope, actually it's not. And so
Mhm.
thank you for being so
Yeah.
willing to talk about your experiences and like the plot, like I can't even imagine how many conversations you've had just outside of this and social and on your podcast. But like
Mhm.
what in your experience, like in the last few years of working through this, like what's been the driving factor? Like have you had a conversation with somebody that you're like, okay, I have to keep working through this because I'm getting to people? Like what's it been
Oh
like
my
for you?
gosh.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it was a random day in December and I was at my dad's house and I got triggered by something. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was someone on TikTok or something. A memory popped up and I thought, you know what? Fuck those guys. And so I posted a TikTok
Mhm.
and didn't say names, didn't say company names. And I won't because I know I'm going to get hit with a lawsuit. So I make sure to keep that under wraps. And the amount of outpouring of DMs that I got from women genuinely broke my heart.
Mm.
And that was the reason why I was like, I can't stop talking about that. I like pulled the curtain down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so the women that DM me, the women that comment, the women that share their stories with me that are not ready to share their stories is the reason that I keep talking about this.
Mm-hmm.
When I posted that TikTok, there was 3 women that came forward that had known these men before. Obviously, I cannot make claims, but they had said some things that were absolutely horrible to hear about things that had
Mm-hmm.
happened to them with these men that were not in a workplace setting. And I said, fucking no, no.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And, you know, there's a lot of women that I've talked to that are scared to fight back. And I just said, I'll do it for you. Like, I will do
Mhm.
it for you.
Mhm.
And, you know, I get so many comments. You know, I get negative comments, but I get comments that are like, you helped me through the workday. And that is the reason that I keep talking about it. You know, there's even this part of me that has imposter syndrome about it. Like, I really hope people don't think I'm egotistical and, you know, I don't feel powerful at all. It's like, I think that as women, we are powerful when we are unified and we are together. And this is finally, we're kind of in, you know, Me Too movement started in 2020 and we are actually 2019. And we are finally starting to move towards the Me Too movement in corporate America. But like all of us are talking about it together. And it's so
Mhm.
much stronger than just me. It is all of us talking about it. It is all of us deciding that this is no longer the life that we are willing to live or the
Mhm.
circumstances that we are willing to put up with just because we are women trying to do our job.
Absolutely. Well, and what a powerful thing to be doing as well. Like, I mean, I remember you hear everyone says you hear these stories, you don't think it's going to happen to you. And then, as someone who was harassed at work by some random male that I worked with, it happened to me and I had no idea what to do. I was maybe 24 when it happened, 25. And I remember being like, oh my God, this is what people are talking about. It happened to
Mm-hmm.
me. Now what do I do? And honestly, probably one of the only reasons why I was able to process it and have kind of a positive experience from it is because of women coworkers that I had came in to support me and to tell me, report this to HR, make sure you do this, and kind of guided me through the experience because they, of course, they were supportive, but also they had experienced it as well. So they were like, this happened to me. Now I'm passing the baton to you because unfortunately this happens and here's how you deal with it. So I love that you're creating this community. It's an extension of that exact scenario. It happens. It's going to happen. And how you react to it is, I think, essential to how it's going to impact your life. And hearing other stories is also just comforting, is kind of a weird way to put it, I guess, but it's comforting in a sense that, like, one, you're not alone. Two, if so it happened to someone else, I can learn from how they dealt with it or how they overcame that so that when the time does come, because unfortunately, I think it does come in some way, shape, or form that you are looked down upon at the workplace or something negative happens, that you're able to have that community of women around you for that support. So I love what you're doing, and I think it's really important. And we could talk about this all day. I mean, I love this kind of stuff, and I think it's really important what you're doing. So huge kudos to you.
Thank you so much. And I think like the word that you're explaining is validating. Like when you hear
Yes.
someone else's story, it is so validating to say, oh my God, I thought I was all alone and I was experiencing this by myself. And oh my gosh, someone else experienced it. And although I didn't have that experience, right? Like I felt like I was the first person to go out and share their story when they got their dream job and it ended up being a nightmare. So many women were like, holy shit, this was the most validating thing I've ever heard in my life, word for word. And I was like, oh, you know, I was just sharing my story. I think at the time I had like 1,000 followers and I was like, well, I'm just sharing my story. And and so it's incredibly validating to hear someone else's story and it feels like you're less alone. You know, because you feel so alone. Like in that moment when you were being harassed, you probably, I mean, I'm assuming, but felt like I can't turn to anyone. I don't want to lose my job. I feel uncomfortable making this person feel uncomfortable. I've always heard that HR is not for the employee. So you feel like you're suffocated in a box. Like you can't go, and it doesn't, you don't just leave work and you turn off your brain. Like you're ruminating on that. You're thinking about every single interaction that you maybe could have done differently. Oh my gosh, should I not have worn that skirt that day? And it's so fucking not fair. It is not fucking fair because no, we should not have to reserve ourselves. We should teach men how to act different.
Amen. Mic drop.
Yeah. And to know, I think about this a lot because it's 2024. I almost said 23. It's 2024. Women have been in the workplace for 60 plus years. And if we're experiencing this now, what was it like for our mothers?
Oh my God.
What was it like for our grandmothers? Like, I would love to have these candid conversations with my grandma because my grandma, she's no longer with us, but like she worked in the airline industry, but not as an airline, like a flight attendant. Like she worked at the airport and she like worked with predominantly men. I cannot even imagine if she was sitting here, what kind of stories she would have. And like, you just want to hug that person and you just want to say like, I appreciate everything you did. I hope that you stood up for yourself because like it's going to get better, but it's like, fuck, oh my God. Like, how do I still have to deal with this now? Why are people still getting away with this? And then you think about like your future kids or family members or like friends or people that like are going to have to encounter this. And you're just like, this is not right. It's not right. But I think about that a lot. Like the people behind us. What else did they have to experience?
And the fact that like they paved the way for us to be here. And I'm a big believer in speaking for those that are not in the room. And, you know, in this job that I had, they were blatantly racist. And I would say, no, I wouldn't laugh at their jokes. And, you know, there was a situation where they were going to hire this man and they said he was the token diversity hire. And I said, no, he's actually incredibly qualified. And, you know, I always just kind of tried to steer it back to the facts of the situation because the thing is that when I walked into that building, I was judged on how they perceived me, attractive wise. I was judged on my looks, how I dressed, everything, right? And that happens. That's the same thing that happens to people of color. They're judged. The first thing they're judged on is their skin color. And that is and I think that pisses me off so much. And the statistics of women CEOs is so low. The statistics of people of color that are women that are CEOs is even lower. Same thing goes with funding. And so, and it's also interesting that white women are allowed to speak up in a corporate setting, but when women of color speak up in a corporate setting, they're viewed as more aggressive. And so again, it's not it's not an even playing field. And my belief is that I want to lift everyone up. I literally want to grab everyone's hand and I want to say, let's go. Like we're all going together. And I think that education and awareness is the first step of that, right? So what pisses me off about the people in my comments is when they invalidate, they say, like, it really gives all lives matter when they say this. They're like, well, men get harassed too. And I said, okay, When I'm talking about women getting harassed, all I need you to do is say, yes, that happens. You don't need to argue your point because that's two separate conversations. Women cannot do their job in the workplace because they're being harassed for how they look, how they're perceived by someone else, what they're wearing, nothing that has to do with doing their fucking job. But the thing is that women experience that stepping foot outside their house. We have literally no safety whatsoever. We are not in a safe bubble. And it's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair that when I go into the workplace, I also have to worry about being sexually harassed outside of walking down the street and being sexually harassed. So when is enough enough? Like really, I don't know. And that's what pisses me off so much. I get that everyone's going to have their own viewpoint, but where we can all agree is that what's happening is not okay. But if people can't get to that part, which is what's happening is not okay, then we're never going to be able to make change.
You are though. You're paving the way for the change, and I think continuing to have conversations like this, and with the community that you're building through your social platforms as well, like that's going to be the way. And you know, how cool is it going to be in 5 years from now? Look back and see how far you've come and the conversations you've been able to create from that, and changes you've been able to make along the way. And you know, even if it's you a couple of comments, and that's the validation. Thank you for that word, by the way. I pulled it out of my brain for me, but that's that validation that you're seeking and you're building. And again, I just think it is so empowering, and truly like keep doing it. Cause like I have a little sister and she's in the engineering field. Hello, that's predominantly men. And I'm like, I would go to war for anyone that said anything against my sister. Like I can't even imagine. So, but same attitude towards, you know, you're paving the way, you're trying to make these changes. Thank you to the women in front of us, but also we're paving this way for the women behind us as well.
Exactly.
Definitely. Well, clearly we could talk about this for forever because there's no short, unfortunately. That's so unfortunate that we could talk about this forever.
I know.
Oh God, we'll take the comical twist on it. Chrissy, I want to know, in all of this, how do you define success for yourself?
Oh, such a juicy question now. I feel successful when I am able to directly provide value to whatever I'm doing in that space. I work with business owners right now from like initial revenue all the way to like 50 million. And when I'm able to say, this is what I did and this was the results, I feel so freaking great about myself. But the days of me feeling successful by my job title, by my salary, by the location that I live in, I mean, I blew all that up.
Amen.
Remember,
speaking our language. Yes.
This is the job.
It's just a job.
Amen.
Chrissy, let's head into some rapid fire.
Chrissy, what is one thing you cannot live without during the workday?
My monitor screens. So being that I am not in one place at every time, I have this slide on monitor and it just like pops out and it's 2 screens. So it's 3 and it's portable and I love it. And probably that.
That is a good answer.
I'd like you to maybe share a link afterwards.
I will, without a doubt. Got it on my good friend Amazon.
Figure out what that is and
but
use it myself.
I'm also comfortable finding a small business that does it too. Cause you know, let's like, you know, spread the wealth here.
Totally.
Okay, thanks for asking that, Ellen. What is one of the best benefits that you've had with a job?
No, where you were going with that is a benefits with a job. Okay. That's going to be a no for me. I don't have basic healthcare. One gyno visit a year. Nothing.
We have not had that answer thus far, and that was so funny. You talked about how candidate. I almost said candidate. How sad that's how deep I am into the job hunt. Candidate. Your candidacy. Wait, no, I said it wrong again. I can't say it. You know what word I'm trying to say.
Yes.
How candid you are.
Candid, yeah.
Okay, we're struggling to find our words. Last question. Chrissy, what is your favorite way to unwind after work?
Oh, I love this question. I'm a reader. I love to read. And I am a reader. I read fiction, nerdy, magic books. Okay. So like the nerdier, the magicalier, the better for me. Okay. And then just being outside with my dog. My dog and I, we're literally like we're soul people together. I rescued her from a kill shelter. She had puppies before she was 1. Like, you know, we took one look at each other and we said, "You drama girl, I see that. Let's go." And yeah, so definitely being outside with my dog, and then reading. I read before bed every night. I don't play on my phone. I'm like pretty strict about my phone time. Even with the amount that I post on TikTok, which you'll see, I normally post and then put my phone down. Like I'm not really a scroller because I want to control my nervous system, my central nervous system. And I want to make sure that I am not jumping into fight or flight all the time. I want to,
Yeah.
as I got older, what I realized is that my search in life is to find peace in all aspects, work, friendships, relationships. I look for people that help me feel peaceful.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's huge. You're just like, I don't have the time for feeling stressed
yeah.
out and contemplating everything.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot that I can appreciate about you. Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to include everywhere that you can find Chrissy. Give her podcast a listen right after you listen to this. Go check it out. These conversations are so important. So take what you learned in this. Have conversations with your coworkers. Ask questions. Be supportive. Just be there for each other. It's important. You know, life is short, so we gotta hold on to the people around us. But Chrissy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm going to leave you guys with a controversial topic, but salary transparency. I'm a big believer in it. And when I was the vice president of marketing for a $200 million company, I made sellers. And then when I was the growth marketing lead for the 12th largest pharmaceutical company in the world, I made 200 as a single woman. And what I'm telling you is like, you guys can fucking do it too.
It's important. Thank you for leaving us with that. Everybody, happy Monday. Enjoy your week. Go kick some butt, and we'll see you next week.